Okay, Assalamu'alaikum Warahmatullahi Wabarakatuh. Mufti Abrar, can you just off your mic for now?
Okay, sure.
Okay, I hope, inshallah. Assalamu'alaikum Warahmatullahi Wabarakatuh. Respected listeners, I hope all of you can hear me clearer than yesterday, and inshallah the stream is better than yesterday. Pray to Allah makes it easy and everything works out well. Alhamdulillah, through the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again we sit here today to remind ourselves and share some advices. And I also encourage everyone that as the program goes along today, you can send in if you have any questions on the topic, you have any suggestions, please share. Let us be a little interactive today as well. It's always been said that sometimes if one person has a burden, he thinks, one person has some type of difficulty upon him, he thinks that, oh, I have all the burdens and all the troubles in the world. But the moment the burden is shared, then it seems lesser. It seems like it's not that much. So as we proceed through these difficult times, the first thing we have to remember is that we're not alone. Inshallah, all of us are here for each other. Sometimes it seems as though it's just bad news upon bad news. Just before coming on, a graduate of the Islam Dawah Academy, Maulana Amir Ismail, he sent a message saying that his father passed away. And Maulana, subhanAllah, Maulana sent a very heartfelt, a very touching message. He said that I'm the only son, I'm the only child. I'm an only child. And he said, all of you are like brothers to me. So please at least make a little dua, do a little isarat tawab for my father. So I replied to him that, Maulana, don't worry, inshallah, shortly I'm going on to have a program, and I'll encourage everyone to pray, make dua maghfirat and do isarat tawab for your father. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive Maulana's father for any shortcomings. May Allah grant him the highest stages of Jannah. And that reinforces my point that in these troubling times, we need to be here for each other. We need to be here to support each other, because people will react differently. People will have different responses. To some, it is nothing. To some others, they take it on. And over the last few days, myself and also the doctors have been saying, let's be positive. Yesterday, Dr. Abdul Rahman also preached that same message. Whilst at home, eat good, sleep good, do a little exercise at home, and let's try to be positive. So alhamdulillah, today we are joined by my good friend and colleague, Mufti Abrar from San Juan in Trinidad, all the way from Trinidad, mashallah. Mufti Sahib is very active in all the efforts and the works in Nur al-Islam Masjid. I'm sure many of you would have been there, a big masjid in Trinidad. Mufti Sahib is very much involved in all of the activities there, even leads salah at times. And along with that, he has Al-Ihsan Institute. The Al-Ihsan Institute, which it has a school under it. He runs a school, as well as many classes and maktab, etc. There's also online courses and online classes. Inshallah, this weekend there is going to be an online class, inshallah, and probably at the ending, Mufti Sahib will share information about that as well. So without further ado, inshallah, the topic today is positivity in these times. I'll hand over to Mufti Sahib, and inshallah, he will share some words of wisdom with you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. My dear respected viewers, brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has certainly favored us with Islam. And being Muslims, we have a whole different way of thinking. I do hope everything is fine here with the audio, and maybe if Mona can just give me a heads up that everything's fine and we can go ahead. By that time, inshallah, we're moving ahead. A Muslim is very, I heard actually Mawlana Akil spoke about this hadith in one of his programs before. Ajab li amril mu'min. The believer is a very strange individual, or someone who takes issues, takes situations in a very unique way. I'll translate it like that, or I'll put that context in it, because as Muslims, we definitely do have a very broad perspective when we think about things. And the Prophet ﷺ, in his beautiful example, he gave us so many different incidents where we would be able to reflect on what happened in his life and different situations that have taken place. And thereafter, from that, we learn basic principles of life, and actually major principles of life. There are usul that actually help us focus and do what we're supposed to do, and be able to bounce back from any type of situation that we'll be able to face. The topic today is positivity, and as our doctors have mentioned, and Maulana has been speaking to you about it before, it's definitely the perspective that we're supposed to have as Muslims. And I just want to highlight some of those things. There's a few different points I want to raise, inshallah. 4 of them really, actually. 4 major points that I do want to raise. One of them, the first one, I'll just name him strength. So strength itself is a sifat and a quality of a mu'min, a believer. We also have optimism. Optimism is a second quality, and that's something that is also tied in with your strength and your positivity, how your outlook is, and the way that you look at issues and situations that you're faced with. The third thing is positive thinking, and not just optimistic, but the way that your thought process should be. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in many examples, showed us as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran as well showed us different ways of doing that as well. And the last thing is acting. The main aspect of getting that positive attitude and getting that change of mind and optimism and that strength is the action that follows, and that's something that's definitely something that we need to act upon. I'll start with a very beautiful hadith. And this hadith actually has, incorporates all of the lessons that we really need to learn. This is reported by Imam Muslim rahimahullah, on the authority of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. He mentions that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Al-mu'min al-qawiyyu khayrun wa ahabbu ila Allahi min al-mu'min al-dha'if wa fi kulli khayr." That the strong believer, he is better and more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the dha'if, or the weak believer. وَفِي كُلِّ خَيْرٍ, and it is the same situation in every good action, every good aspect of that believer, every good aspect that a person has within himself. So this is one of those fundamental principles that I want us to grab onto. Weakness is not generally something that we attribute to our qualities as believers. If there's inherent qualities that the believer should have, one of them is strength. And obviously, if you have strength, you're not going to have weakness. So if you do have that sense of weakness, or feeling that weakness, this is something we need to discuss and find how, to get out, to change that perception that you might have. Maulana started with a statement, and he said, "Al-musibatu idha ammat khaffat," that musibah, difficulty, when it is broadened, or many people have to go through that same type of difficulty, then this type of difficulty is actually something that becomes easy, because you realize that the broad spectrum of people that is going through the same thing, then you realize, what, I'm not going through such a big deal. Example of that is maybe, when a person, for example, he feels that, he's just gotten an accident, for example. So somebody just gets in an accident, and you're thinking that, what, I just crashed the car, the whole problem with my family, with the insurance, with getting wrecked, and, sorting by the car, the financing for the car, and everything else. It becomes such a big burden. But if you happen, and this is not obviously something that we will try or want to happen, but if, for example, there was 10 cars that smashed at the same time, and all of you all had accidents, and everyone had a situation that they faced at the same time. And you know, I wouldn't say major, but what I'm saying is the point is everybody got in an accident. Then at the same time, you join together your forces of grief, you join together your forces of loss, you discuss the issues, you discuss the problems that you have and find the solutions to it and so on. So it becomes a little more easier to bear because everyone can talk about what they just went through as opposed to you just went through it yourself. So this is a very important point that Mona Akil is brought up to us, that definitely when there is a difficulty talking, bringing that out, bring out the emotions, explaining it, hearing different perspectives is something that we can definitely do. And it brings me back to the first point, is strength. Strength, my dear beloved viewers, does not mean our physical strength. Like for example, the hadith, famous hadith, لَيْسَ الشَّدِيدُ بِالسُّرْعَةِ إِنَّمَا الشَّدِيدُ الَّذِي يَمْلِكُ نَفْسَهُ عِنْدَ الْغَضَبِ, that a person's strength is not being able to overpower his opponent, but real strength is that person who has the force or the ability to subdue his anger. Because true force is within. That's where force comes in from. You know, that's where power and ability and strength comes first. It's the strength of your nafs. And when you can control your nafs, then control your whole concept, your whole perception of what's happening around you. So here when Rasulullah talks about al-mu'min al-qawi, we definitely want to look at the inner strength that the person has first. And he's more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the weak person, the weak mu'min, the weak believer. And this is definitely going to be mental strength as well. It's definitely going to be physical strength as well. It's going to be even financial strength as well. It's going to include your say and your strength over the community and your influence on others as well. Because with some type of leverage and some type of power, you're able to do more. You're able to have much more influence over others. You're able to change situations. You're able to help others. You're able to do. And that's a great quality that a mu'min and a believer should have. So that's why as a believer, we should all have high aspirations and high values, and we do definitely want to try to achieve as much as we can. So that's the first thing, and that's the first point. I'm going to stop right there at that point, and I want to go on to some of the other points as well. Strength itself is one of the fundamental qualities of a believer. The qualities of the believers, the qualities of the anbiya, the salaf as-salihin, everyone, they always had strength, mental strength, or even physical strength. They would have strength with mental, psychological strength as well. Whatever you deem strong or strength to be able to accomplish any type of task, this is the quality of a believer. So we do not attribute ourselves to weakness, nor do we try to become a weak person. We try to get strength in all different ways that we can get strength. So that's the first point. I want you to note that down. I'm going to be strong. And write that down if you have to. It actually makes a difference. You know, when you write it out, I am strong. Psychologically, read it if you have to. And you are feeling weak, I am strong. Say it strong, you know, shout it out if you have to. I am strong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me strength. I am a believer. I am a strong believer. And be forceful about it. Be strong about it. Be motivated about it. Because that, inshallah, will push you to the next steps. The next step is optimism. Optimism is the attitude. Attitude changes a situation completely. And the optimism that you have definitely comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes for us to have a good optimistic approach to everything that we're doing. Giving an example of that, Imam Muslim rahimahullah brings this very hadith that I was talking about, strength, when I said al-mu'min al-qawi khayrun wa ahabbu ila Allah min al-mu'min al-da'if wa fi kulli khayr. Imam Muslim rahimahullah brings it in the chapter of belief in the divine decree and submission to it. So divine decree, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who does. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who kun fayakun. He says be and it will be. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives sickness, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives strength, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives us a test or a situation, then definitely that optimism should be there, that you know what, I'm not really in control of this. Who's in control? Allah is in control. So if I'm not blameworthy, then why should I beat myself up over it? Because it's in Allah's control. Now that does not mean that we do not put preparations, we do not try to make sure and have full tawakkul. Tawakkul meaning that you tie a camel, or you make sure and you prepare, you take all of the different types of precautions that you're supposed to. But the second part of it is tawakkul is relying on Allah, meaning the taqdeer of Allah and the predestination and decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is predestined. So why am I going to beat myself up over something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for me? And that's why when we come to things like COVID-19 situation, if we do get COVID-19, are you going to become overwhelmed, depressed by it? But you know what, I've done all these precautions? No, the attitude of the optimism that we have as Muslims and the believers is that, first of all, this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I am happy with the decree of Allah. That means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selected me after I did all of the precautions, and you know what, I got it, this is from Allah, let me deal with it now. And that's why we have to be optimistic in situations. I want to go a little further into that, but it'll tie into the third point, so I'll discuss a little bit more there. In the hadith that I started, it continues actually, and it's really interesting. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, وَاحْرِسْ احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله ولا تعجز وإن أصابك شيء فلا تقل له إني فعلت كان كذا وكذا ولكن قل قدر الله ما شاء فعل فإن لو تفتح عمل الشيطان. So Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu is mentioning in this part of the hadith, and this is the part you generally don't hear. I'm sure many of you would have heard a strong believer is more beloved, better and more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than a weak believer. Al-mu'minu qawi khayrun wa ahabbu ila Allah min mu'min dha'if. But this part, the second part, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying, وَاحْرِصْ عَلَى مَا يَنْفَعُكَ. And he says, cherish that, but cherish that which gives you benefit. وَاحْرِصْ عَلَى مَا يَنْفَعُكَ. Cherish those things. Have, that optimism and look out for those things that benefit you. Because you cannot be a believer and have this attitude that, you know what, if it comes to me, I'll get it. Or you sit down thinking, you know what, I want a raise, for example, and you sit down and saying, I hope that Allah gives me a raise. Or you think that, you know what, I hope that this happens to me. Or I hope that, I get the food from the grocery. It doesn't work like that, right? You have to have a good attitude that, you know what, I have to get this done. This is in my portfolio. This is my job. I have to get it done. وَاحْرِصْ عَلَى مَا يَنْفَعُكَ. But cherish and have that optimism and that attitude which gives you benefit. And then the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, وَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. When you have that attitude and you're pumped up, you're ready to go for it, you're ready to move forward, then what do? Seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So first you have to build that attitude, you have to get that resolution, and I'm going to do this. You have that optimism that it can be done, and then you move forward to it. Then you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, give me barakah, give me strength, give me protection. Allah, let this happen in a good way. Thereafter, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, وَإِنْ أَصَابَكَ شَيْءٌ فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُ. And this is the attitude of optimism as well, that if something was to befall you, if some trouble of calamity or COVID-19 was to come on you, don't say, you know what, if I had not done that, it would not have gone like that. If this did happen, if this happened, if that happened, it would not have been like that. This is not the attitude you should have. You shouldn't think that, if I had made this decision, if I had done this, if I had listened to this one. What I'm saying is the Prophet ﷺ is drawing our attention. Do what you have to do at that given point. Stop looking at the past and start thinking about the future. In fact, I think this what do you call this Facebook page is called was it future, thinking about the future, or looking for the concern for the future, something like that. So that's the beauty of it. You have to be concerned about your future more than you're concerned about your past. Why would you keep thinking about what you could have done better? You learn your lessons quickly, but you move ahead. That's the direction we want to go as believers. Well, because Rasulullah says, because this is the qadr of Allah. If it had to happen, it will happen. And then this, if you start thinking about if, then you start becoming depressed, you start becoming overwhelmed. And this is where shaitan is opened up. You open the gate for shaitan, and shaitan overwhelms you. So optimism is very important. One of the things that I want to highlight again, when Mona Akil introduced himself and he was talking in the beginning in his introduction, he was saying is definitely when the situation with people around us and discussing and finding ways of a betterment and having positivity. Once Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of the Sahaba suffered such an affliction that they were overwhelmed with that whole situation, and they themselves was thinking about what to do, how to get over. And this was the situation of Hudaybiyah, and many of you all would have known that situation where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw in a dream Hudaybiyah is taking place, and the Umrah is taking place, and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is honored to come and make the minor pilgrimage. And this is a time where everyone is thinking about, what is going to be such an honor. We're going to go back to Mecca. We're going to do the pilgrimage. In fact, when they came to Hudaybiyah and then the Sahaba were told, no, they can't move forward, they became emotional. And, we know the incident of Umar radiallahu anhu is asking, are you not the Nabi of Allah? Then Allah not to show you in a dream and so on, that, we will be doing the Hajj Asgar or the smaller Hajj and so on. And these are all the statements that was being asked. Eventually, they went to the Prophet ﷺ said and commanded that you should slaughter the hadi, or slaughter the animals, and also shave the head, and then slaughter the animals. So at that time, the Sahaba were distraught. They were really, really emotional. The Prophet ﷺ himself, he was not he went to his wife actually for counsel, and his wife actually gave him a very beautiful advice. She said, go and shave your head, basically, and I'm paraphrasing obviously. Shave your head, and then the Sahaba radiallahu anhu will see you shaving your head, and they will realize, what, we actually have to shave our head. And the point I'm making here is that there's a point where you have to act, and a point you have to actually have the strength and think positively. And here Ummahatul Mu'mineen, believing mothers at that time, they gave that beautiful counsel to do things, just go ahead with it, move on, and inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put barakah. If you look at the incident of Uhud, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, at that time many of Sahaba died, they became shaheed. Now they became shaheed, and at many losses was happened at the battle of Uhud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and consoling him and giving him the attitude and the positive way of thinking, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. And do not be weakened and do not be grievous. Do not grieve, and you will be superior if you are true believers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling him, take away the attitude of overwhelmness. Don't become grievous, don't become weakened, and so on. But what happened? You will become stronger, you will become superior. Don't worry about it. There's a time to move forward. Things happen, you accept it. And then what's the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he moved ahead with this verse? He says in يَمْسَسْكُمْ قَرْحٌ فَقَدْ مَسَّ الْقَوْمَ قَرْحٌ مِثْلُهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if a wound was to touch you, there has already touched the opposing people a similar wound. And you know what you learn from this? You learn that, any given situation, whenever you have a problem, whenever you have a situation, and my dear viewers, this is where you have to actually take this in and make this a principle of your life. Whenever you have any type of situation, any type of difficulty, you have to find a solution to that problem. This is the attitude that we have as Muslims. We change our thinking, our process, and anyone who thinks positively definitely will be able to go ahead. Nobody in life goes through life without problems. That's a given. Everyone has problems. Everyone is suffering from something. Each one of you have a problem. That's a given. There's no doubt whatsoever in my mind that everyone who is viewing this and everyone who has some type of connection to this program or you're listening, you have a problem. I'm telling you, I know with certainty you have a problem. There is something that you have a problem with. But if we keep thinking about the problem, then we'll never find a solution. A believer thinks about the solutions. He thinks positively. Like, well, how can I get out of this? Okay, you know what? My house is flooded. What do I have to do? Am I going to sit there and think, you know, my house is flooded, my house is flooded, my house is flooded? Or is he going to get up piece by piece, get his house back in order, clean up his house, calling people, you know, call this one, call that one, make sure that people understand that, okay, you need support. Because sometimes we put ourselves in a situation where it's very difficult for us, but we don't stretch our hands out. We don't ask people for help. We don't ask people for support. And that's definitely not the attitude that we have to have. So think about it like this. This is another principle of life, that every problem has a solution. So you just have to think out of the box, think out of your given situation, and find that solution. And that's the last point I have to draw our attention towards, is act. Act. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Sunnah has taught us about acting, to make resolutions, make plans, you know, do actions that is going to benefit you. You know, so we are in situations with COVID-19, we are locked down, we can't go anywhere. Are you just gonna you know, sit down and say that, you know, I can't do this, I can't do that? That's why there's a famous I think it was called it's advice that's been circulating in social media, is saying that when you wake up in the morning, start with making up your bed, because when you get one task done properly, you feel a sense of accomplishment, dopamine. It's pumped into your system, and then afterwards you're able to go to the next next point of work or next action, and you start moving from one to the other, and then you have a positive attitude to things. So to get that strength, to get that optimism, to get that positivity, you definitely have to act, and act requires a plan. You've got to have a plan to be positive. You can't just want to be positive or hope to be positive without a plan. So I want you all to pen something down tonight. Are you all there? Am I talking to myself? No, I'm sure I'm not. I'm sure you're all there. Okay, I'm definitely asking you to plan. You have to get a timetable. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Sunnah has taught us that everything has an effect. And with that effect, you are able to continue the day on a positive note. For example, when we look at the Sunnah of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam talks about Fajr Salah, for example. Man salla salatul subh, man salla subh fahuwa fi dhimmatillah. So here Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam is saying that that person who prays the Fajr Salah, then that person is in the dhimma, or he is in the shade or the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now you want the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what do you have to do? You have to definitely first pray. You have to get up. Now, to get up, you don't just get up, but you have to put things in place to get up. You have to put on your alarm. You have to ask someone to wake you up, ask your spouse, even ask your kids if you have to. But make a plan to be able to wake up. Without that plan, you won't be able to push your dopamine level and become optimistic, have a positive attitude. So it requires, as the doctor was mentioning, good wellness, which means, you know, your exercise, good eating, good you know, attitude, psychologically as well. But it's definitely something that you have to act, and you have to plan for it. It does not happen just like that. And that's the attitude that we have even when a person is, for example, coaching yourself, you know, your life coaching, how to change things in your life. What do you first look at? Whenever there's a problem, you start looking for the solutions. When you find that solution, then you start acting on that solution. And when you start talking to people who are, you know, your persons are going through different types of situations, and you're not able to now act, you feel overwhelmed, you're feeling, you know, you're feeling that it's too much to control. Then what do? Start small. Start point by point, and it will start leading you forward into moving and getting that, you know, that positivity in your life to move forward. And this is how Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well, in the seerah you would find it so many places where the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam will start little by little until there is where it is overcome. And this is the attitude that we should have as believers. I definitely want to leave you all with that. I want you all to come up with a plan, and maybe, I don't know if we can have some interaction. I'm not sure if we can get you all to, you know, say things to us, ask questions, inshallah. Definitely, as I was mentioning, one of the advice is, you know, make your bed. For us as believers, we wake up with that first point of contact is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amatana wa ilayhi nushur is the attitude again. Alhamdulillah radina bil qismatil jabbari fina. We are happy with how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for us, whatever situation it is. And when we get up in the morning, Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amatana. So we look at the positivity there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're thanking Him. Radina raditu billahi rabba. When we wake up as well, we say that and this is part of the morning du'as and adhkar that you say, I am happy with Allah as my Lord. I'm happy with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as my Nabi. I'm happy that Islam is the deen that I have chosen. And you think about it, think and ponder about it, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me a lot. Alhamdulillah that I'm waking up. So it's the attitude. Once you start putting these places and say it over and over, if you have to, as I said, put up a sign. If you're having difficulty, say that, you know, I must be positive. And whenever a negative thought comes into your mind, take it, squeeze it up, and throw it in the bin. That's what you have to do. You have to act this thing out. You have to actually make plans. You have to wake up early in the morning. Don't be, you know, a cut potato, what do you call that? A couch potato. And, you know, every morning you're waking up different times, you know, you're getting up, maybe praying, going back to sleep, you know, exercising, you're not doing anything, you're not reading, you're not trying to accomplish what you have, which is the free time. You're not going into the Quran. You know, the Quran is one of those things that, subhanAllah, when you have this intention that, you know what, oh Allah, give me the answers to my problems, the Quran talks to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you from what you seek from the Quran. It's like a dua. It's one of those dua that's directly connected to Allah, because you know the Quran is one of those attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you are like invoking directly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His own words. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts that inspiration within yourself and He answers your questions. So you look at the Quran not only as you know, I'm getting reward and blessings, I have to finish this khatam, I have to read Quran, and it's the month of Ramadan, all those things are well and good, you have to do that. But read it with this intention that, you know what, oh Allah, I want cure from the Quran, because shifa. So if you're feeling down, read it for inspiration, read it for optimism, read it for positivity, and Allah will give you that positivity. So I want to end there because I don't want to go too long, inshallah. I've taken on enough time. I want you guys to plan this. I want you all to take out your papers tonight, tomorrow, whenever you have time, whenever you see this message, and I want you to pen down a basic timetable. Write your name, you know, Abrar's plan for the month of April or before Ramadan for the next 3 weeks, what I want to accomplish. Read a book, or try to learn a skill. Do some calligraphy, for example, or work on your own handwriting, or maybe just work on your signature because it's so bad. You know, whatever it is, get something and work on it. I see. I said the signature, and Monaki was looking at me. Maybe his signature is not so good, and he wants to work on it. But definitely, you have to make a plan, and you have to try doing something and start step by step. You'll see how easy it becomes. Just understand that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is the sovereign of all situations that we are in, but definitely has placed strength. He has placed positivity. He has placed optimism. He has placed the attitude in our control, and that's something we definitely have to do. And we learn that from the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And definitely, if we do that, we become successful in anything that we want to do, literally anything. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept us all. I end there, inshallah, for any questions and answers, or however we're going to move forward, inshallah. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.
Jazakallah Mufti Sahib, mashallah. They're very thorough and we explain everything really well. I think one of the points that I want to reiterate here is that what you said about getting up in the morning, making your bed. I think that's important because we need to keep the routine going, because Allah knows best. We could be in these situations for 2 weeks, or it could be another 3 months. Right? May Allah bring things to an end swiftly. But at the same time, we have to be we have to keep that routine going, so that when everything goes back to normal, we're there, we're ready. And actually, only today, some youngsters, they were complaining. They said the school is telling them that when school starts back, they have to sit in front of their computers in their school clothes. And they said, but we are home, so why do we have to do that? So I explained to them, that's it. It makes sense, because if you're gonna sit down in your pajamas in front of the screen, then you're not gonna learn anything. Your mind isn't gonna be there. So I think that's very, very important for us. When we wake up for Fajr Salah as well, maybe move around, go somewhere else, sit with the Quran, sit where we can, so that we can continue our routine. Someone messaged and said if some terms can be used or translated for the benefit of non-Muslims who are tuning in. Any terms you use? I'm trying to.
I would have tried to translate as much as I can, but if there's anything particularly, please mention.
Right.
I do generally give the meaning of what I'm saying right after. So.
Okay. Since you run a school as well, what have you been suggesting out there?
So definitely, it's something that we're all worried about, and something that we have to be cognizant of. There are challenges, and as I said in my talk just now, we have to definitely find solutions. So what we started doing is online, where we try to make it as comfortable as possible for the students and the parents as well. So we try guiding them through online portals, and we try to connect with them. One of the advices that I gave to the to the teachers initially to start off with the kids is just connect to your students. Let them be able to message you, to be able to ask any questions that they have. Be able to guide them, because they themselves are home. They know that there's a situation going, and they do like to connect to their teachers. They do like to connect to their to the people who they're familiar with. So do that. Why not just have an interaction with them? Being able to have a good rapport and connect with them. So that's the first thing that we need to do as people. At least connect on our human level. Understand that people are going through different situations. Sometimes some of them going through financial issues. Sometimes it's just being claustrophobic. Sometimes it's just that you have no one to socialize with. So everyone's in a different boat. At least understand the situation that everyone's going, and listen as much as you can to the different types of people that are going through issues.
Any suggestions for parents? I'm sure parents have it tough at the moment.
I know it's very difficult. I'm a parent as well of two, and a lot of times we have to kind of like shift with me and my spouse, my wife, and we try to have where we get a little bit of shifting, where sometimes she takes them, I take them. What is definitely important is that you still stick to routines, especially for kids. If you do not have routines and you just leave them to be, they themselves become overwhelmed with just having no structure whatsoever. Because kids, they fall into routine and they actually survive on routine much more. So if you don't keep a routine with them, they themselves become overwhelmed. They become then very sometimes lethargic, sometimes energetic, sometimes bored, sometimes they just don't know what to do. So if you give them a routine, I think this is one of the biggest things that we can do. Routines, it doesn't have to be too strenuous, but put a timer. Say, okay, 15 minutes, we're gonna sit down and read a book, for example, or draw or color, or and then the next 15 minutes we're gonna actually have snack time, sit down and do a picnic. Next half an hour we're gonna have a walk outside, for example. Whatever you can do within your capacity, you do that. And routines are really, really important. Definitely something we should do.
I have another question here.
Yeah.
What is the best way to explain the situation to our children, especially the younger ones? What we're facing. How best can we, speak to them about this?
I think one of the things is for kids are very understanding. Sometimes we underestimate how we should describe things, but kids are very, the more you speak to a kid as an adult, the smarter and the more intelligent that kid becomes as well. So it's very important as well that you talk to the child just as you would be explaining to someone who's now getting informed of the situation. So you explain to them what is a virus, how virus spreads, how a person gets affected, what we can do, cannot do, how to prevent it, and then the end, what is the perception of a Muslim, what is the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then sometimes people do get it, even though they do all this because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge of everything, but we have to do our actions to make sure and protect ourselves. So you do explain it just as you be explaining to someone who really wants guidance and who doesn't have any idea of what's going on. So it's fine. Think of your kids as, proper working, understanding adults, and explain to them like you would explain to any other adult.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think as well, one of the important points that we can really get across now in these times is the beautiful teachings of Islam. For example, when we wake up in the morning, the first thing we're supposed to do, in the Tasheel series that we do at Madrasa, the Maktab, the first lesson has that. When you wake up in the morning, I wash my hands. Yeah. So these are things now to ingrain into our children. Yeah. Similarly, before eating, after eating. So now it is not. So now there's a really good chance for us to practically show the beauty of the Sunnah of the Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
In fact, you just said that. One of the things I was just speaking to my team at Al Ihsan Institute, and we were saying that we're gonna start one Sunnah a day. Just like the practice that we used to have even when we were studying Akil. So what we would do is every day just highlight one sunnah and just put that into your lives and just practice it, similarly like washing your hands, because there's barakah, but there's routine and there's positivity out of it. There's many benefits. So there's like a whole long list of things for our practical lives, and definitely we should start acting on one sunnah a day, inshallah.
On that note, in case anybody wants, there are many Sunnah books out there in the public. I think there's one by Hakim Akhtar Sahib Warahmatullahi. I think Sunnahs of the Beloved, something like that it is. And it's divided into all different Sunnahs from the morning until going to sleep. Yeah, in many of the madrasas actually we used to do ta'lim of that as well. So that's something you can search for online. If any of the admins have it at their disposal, they can probably put it up. I think Sunnahs of the beautiful Sunnahs of the Beloved Prophet, something like that is the name of. There was a question being asked about the online school. Brother Riaz is not a okay. At times, Al Ihsan that Mufti Abrar runs, sometimes you have courses being offered.
Yeah, so
it is not online school per se.
No, so right now, like we just do basic short courses sometimes. So we have we're just finishing up Aqidat al-Tahawi. So we went through going through Aqidat al-Tahawi. Sometimes we're starting up a Learn to Read Quran course. So it's a course where basic readers who now learning their basics of alphabets and stuff. So a lot of new Muslims, a lot of people who had not gotten any type of previous background. And then what we do is actually right now, because we have a full primary school system, we started the online schooling through there. Although we did stop for a little break for, as we would call it, the April holidays or the Easter holidays. So we stopped for 2 weeks, and then right after the 2 weeks, we're going to start back again online, where teachers are actually going to go to their classes online and continue teaching. Yeah.
Right. So your course coming up is on Saturday. That's the course, I guess you can.
Okay, so
Riyadh may be asking about if you want to share.
Is we're having a preparation for Ramadan course on Al Ihsan's platform, and we'll be using both Zoom and probably Facebook. Actually, Mona Akil will be doing a session as well, inshallah. So there's 4 sessions. One of them will be talking about the spirituality aspect of Ramadan. Second one would be about zakat, and then we will be doing about masail. And the last portion of that program will be about practicals and health issues or health benefits of Ramadan, inshallah.
Yeah, so just to repeat, so we'll cover spirituality, we're going to cover also the masail and the we call the rulings regarding to Ramadan, also the rulings regarding to zakat, which is also very important because usually at this time, usually the Muslims take out their zakat, and then good health practices. So you can easily join in, inshallah. Inshallah, we'll look forward to get the link from you, and when you get the link, we'll put it onto our webpage, onto the Facebook page, and then people will be able to attend.
Definitely.
Right. So this kitab, mashallah, I've been sent the kitab here by a number, mashallah. The admins have already doing their job, mashallah. May Allah reward them greatly. So it's called Beautiful Sunnahs of the Beloved Nabi. I don't know if you can see it if I put it up like that. Beautiful Sunnahs of the Beloved Nabi, by Hakim Akhtar Sahib rahimahullah ta'ala, and is in Urdu as well. Pyari Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ki pyari sunnat. So this is really is a small book. I think is about 34 pages roughly, but mashallah, as Mufti Sahib said, one a day and can cover a lot. Any other questions? Any other comments from anyone? Okay, Jazakallah Mufti Sahib. I think there's nothing else at the moment. Hopefully you'll be able to join us again soon. But we hope and pray that all of this comes to an end as quick as possible so we can go back to our routine.
Jazakallah.
Any other thing you want to add?
Jazakumullah for having me, and for all the viewers as well for your participation in this program. One of the things I definitely do encourage, and I think sometimes us as Muslims, we're a bit lackadaisical, a little bit lethargic in it, is getting that routine and being proactive. Definitely proactivity is definitely our inherent quality as believers. And the Prophet ﷺ definitely would have asked for protection from laziness and from lethargy, and it's something definitely we have to get out of our systems. Be active, be proactive, and live a productive life in this world, and definitely, inshallah, it'll definitely benefit us in the akhirah. Okay,
Jazakallah once again. Inshallah, tomorrow we're not going to have a session tomorrow. We're going to have our next session on Wednesday. Wednesday after Maghrib is going to be the 15th night of Sha'ban. And as mentioned yesterday, tomorrow will be the 13th day of Sha'ban. The 14th day of Sha'ban is going to be Wednesday, and the 15th day is on Thursday. And we discussed the Ayyam Bid yesterday, the fasting of the white days, the 13th, 14th, 15th. So if possible, we want to keep those 3 fasts, mashallah, that's very good. So we can keep tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. So inshallah, our program will be on Wednesday night. It will be, inshallah, we'll try to give a little inspiration, as it is a blessed night, and also we'll make some dua. Everyone can join in, and inshallah I'll also try to touch on the method of performing Salat al-Tasbih, because mashallah many people like to perform Salat al-Tasbih on that night as well. So I'll touch on that as well. So please join in on Wednesday night, inshallah, for our next session. Jazakallah once again to Mufti Abrar. Jazakallah to all the admins and all those who assisted, and Jazakallah to all the listeners for coming in. And please keep tuning in. This is how we sit and interact during these difficult times. Jazakallah once again. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun al mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Okay, Assalamu'alaikum.